The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. I am Karen Wolf at Great Lakes Center for Youth Development. Welcome to Blogging Basics. The webinar features show that if you have a question, we'd like you to click the raise your hand button and type your question in. We have a couple of times we will stop and go over questions. So just go ahead and send them and we will get to them for you. Our presenters today are Victoria Leonhardt, Associate at GLCYD, and Samantha Collins, owner of Samantha Elizabeth.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to get rolling today. Welcome to the second webinar in our social media marketing for nonprofits series. Today we're going to talk about something that I'm kind of new to, but Samantha's an old pro, and that is blogging. So blogging is a regularly updated website or web page, typically ran by an individual or a small group, that's written in an informal or conversational style. Blogs can be about anything and written by anyone. Today we're going to be talking about basic blogging concepts, and we're going to try to shy away from talking about specific blogging platforms and topics until the very, very end. But when we do talk a little bit about the very basics in the beginning, it will have a nonprofit spin to it. So if you're not a nonprofit, hang in there. There's only about 6 slides that are nonprofit specific, and then we'll be jumping into more general things and then back to more specific things. So some really notable blogs that you may have heard of, and when I was looking at like what some big blogs are, I didn't even realize that things like Mashable, Huffington Post, Lifehacker, TechCrunch, all of these websites are actually blogs. Some are written in more of a reporting style, but a lot of especially the Huffington Post stuff, you can read really individualized personal opinions on different topics. So when I was researching blogging and things like this, it was really eye-opening to me to see that some of the websites that I routinely visit for news are actually blogs. So as a nonprofit, why would you want to have a blog? Deciding to launch a blog is a pretty big decision. And when I ask people if they've thought about blogging, the response is normally yes, but there's always this reason why they don't want to do it. It takes too much time, I don't know what I'm going to write, I don't know who will write it. So today I'm going to cover some of the benefits of blogging. This is a really great platform to tell your story. That's actually my favorite reason that we blog. There's such a limited news cycle, and sometimes stories about us as nonprofits are very short, 20 seconds. They can't fill in everything that our event is doing or that our program covers. And so with a blog, you get to tell the whole story. You have the power to determine what parts are covered. Blogging allows for connection. Readers can comment on your blog, they can tell you about other blogs, they can like you. It really helps with search engine optimization. Your blog helps generate keywords that are searchable on Google. Samantha has some really great experience with this, and maybe she'll tell you a story about one of them later. We'll see. Your blog really allows you to get out there and be a thought leader. By writing about the things that you know, you can be viewed as a resource to your team members, the community, and even state and national level organizations. And finally, you're creating content that can be shared. If you tuned into our last webinar, you know all about the different strategies for creating shareable content. A blog post can go a long way. It can be tweeted, shared, pinned, sent to the newspaper, read as a podcast, made a Facebook post, all kinds of different ways that you can use your blog content. So what exactly would you want to blog about? Like I said earlier, a blog can be written by anyone about anything. Current events make a great springboard. It can be anything from your organization's stance on a hot topic to a book review of the latest and greatest book that helps share your mission. People love reading about people, so staff updates and interviews can bring some really fun content. If you have volunteers, getting their perspective can be useful and a great recruitment tool. A blog's a great place to raise general awareness about the issues you care most about. It can also help promote upcoming events, donor drives, signups, or any other events you plan to hold. Finally, your blog can capture feedback from the people who read it, helping you to see if you're meeting your mission in the ways that you think that you are. So where does your blog go? When you get started, you'll have to kind of decide, do you want to have a standalone blog like Samantha's blog or an embedded blog like GLCYD's? This is a great conversation to have with your website person, as some people may not be able to handle having a blog component. So for example, glcyd.org is hosted on WordPress, and in a minute you'll see that SamanthaElizabeth.com is also on WordPress, and we use them a couple different ways. On the right-hand column of the GLCYD homepage, you can see our blog. The 2014 Marquette Alger Youth Report available, that's a blog post. Call for workshop proposals, that's a blog post. A simple thank you, informal volunteer recognition, that's a blog post. Here on Samantha's site, you can see that her whole website is her blog. Across the top are the different topics that she may blog about. So hers is structured a little differently. The only thing on her page are her posts. So when you're doing this, it'll kind of depend on the capacity of your organization's website and how you want to use it. If you want to have a standalone URL, so I think of like maybe someone like Girl Scouts, where there's all these different troops. Each troop could have their own blog where they're sharing stories of what went on, and that would do great as a standalone website. While some smaller organizations may just want to roll it right into their main page because it's hard to, get people going to two different websites. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our blogging extraordinaire, Samantha, who's going to tell us a little bit more about what goes into creating a really good blog post.
Okay, thank you, Victoria. Hello, everyone. Hope you are all doing well today after a long holiday weekend. Thank you for being here and for listening in as we talk about blogging and blog posts and all that fun stuff. I'm going to talk a little bit about the anatomy of a blog post, so more of the nuts and bolts on how to make a blog post work and how to get the biggest, I guess, bang for your buck / time. So as Victoria mentioned, the great thing about blog posts is that you have control over them. You have control over the message that you're putting out there to your audiences. You decide what to share, and you kind of mold the look and the feel of the posts, which helps tell your organization's story, your message, and what you want people to know about what you have going on and what's important to you and should be important to them. So blog posts themselves, like this is the content. These are the key pieces to your messaging. And we talked a little bit about content in the last webinar that we did and how important that is. And it's important that your blog posts and your content, if you are going to go the blog route, that it's consistent, that you're blogging often, and this is even something I struggle with personally. Blogging isn't a full-time gig for me, but it is something that I'm passionate about. I love to write, I love photography, and I love to share. But it's one of those things that can sometimes be a low priority item for me if I'm having a busy week. But that's not an excuse because my readership and my readers and followers, they want to see things consistently, and that's how you keep your readers engaged and interested by posting consistently. So consistent posting is important. making your posts timely, so making sure that if it's to promote an event or something you have going on, that you're planning that out. If you were part of the last webinar we did, we talked about just printing off a calendar from Word, and writing things in there that you know are coming up that you're going to want to post about or write about or share on social media. So consistent content, timely content, so making sure it aligns well with things you have coming up, and make it relevant to your readers. So if you are like the Great Lakes Center for Youth Development and your audience is youth and those who focus on youth involvement and activities, you probably don't want to write a blog post about fashion and the type of shoes that are in style this season. And that's a pretty extreme example, but you see where I'm going with that. So really planning out and thinking about your content and what you want to post, that's really important. And one little tip I have in that regard is keeping a notebook handy. So whoever in your organization is the individual who's going to be writing the posts, the blog posts, keep a little notebook next to your desk or wherever your desk would be. Maybe you travel a lot, so keeping it in a bag or in your purse is more feasible, but carry a notebook with you because ideas will pop up into your head at the most strange moments. I always find that sometimes I won't even be thinking about blogging and stuff, but I'll hear something or see something or think of something and I'll need to write the idea down right away, but I don't always have somewhere to put it. Or maybe if you have your phone with you all the time, you can put it in the notes section of your phone. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is be prepared to jot down ideas often and have a convenient place to do that. So in moving forward, let's talk a little bit about the anatomy of a blog post and the 6 components that I like to really hone in on and think about when I'm making a blog post. So a compelling title. So this is really important. I was listening to a podcast the other day about social media and blogging and web traffic and the way that people are using the internet. And one of the things that they said was that individuals are now, they're starting to track that individuals now have about a 6-second attention span when they're browsing the internet, and that for sure is relative to our millennials and those age groups. So 6 seconds. You have 6 seconds to capture someone's attention on your website before they will click away if it's not engaging and interesting to them. So titles of your blog posts need to be compelling. They need to pull people in and draw attention. And I also like to point out that titles are usually what people are Google searching. So an example, if I want to find activities for youth in mid-Michigan, that's just an example. I would pull up Google and I would type activities for children in mid-Michigan. And see what pops up. And there are other examples that you can probably think of that would be particular to your organization or specific to your organization. But my point is that titles aren't necessarily fancy. They aren't necessarily flowery and wordy. They're simple to the point, and they are what people would be searching on Google or on Yahoo or whatever search engine they use. The point is to keep them concise, not too long, to the point, and think about their searchability and what would people type into that search field, because that will help you your blog post show up higher in Google. And I think Victoria might be talking about search engine optimization a little later on, or at least touch on it, and she's the pro at that sort of stuff. But I always try to stick with titles that are really, really simple and engaging and are what people are looking for. People want that information right away, and they want to know that what they're about to read is going to tell them what they're looking for. And then lead paragraph. So the lead paragraph, which is the first little paragraph of your post, should really hook the reader. It should get your point across and what you're going to be talking about concisely, easy to read, and short. Don't start out a blog post with a really long first paragraph because people won't even read it. They're also looking for relevant imagery. I would almost argue to bump relevant imagery or images up and put it maybe next to or right below compelling title. And the reason is that our society is now becoming we are visual beings, and we want to see things that relate to what we're online looking for. And so images are super, super important. And I think I touched on this in our last webinar, but I really want to encourage you to start documenting things that are going on within your organization and being intentional about that. So whether that be using an iPhone or investing in some sort of a camera, whatever that may be, whatever your budget is, do that. And when you have an event or you're going somewhere, make it somebody's responsibility to document the experience. And start finding a way to file those images away in a shared drive or whatever you use internally, and keep track of those photos, because those photos are really going to be kind of the meat and potatoes to your blog post. So if people aren't digging the text that you're writing, they're going to scan through the photos, and they might pin one of those photos. So we're talking about Pinterest here. They might pin one of those photos to come back to that blog post later. So that's something that I do. If I don't have time to read a whole post, but it's really interesting to me, it's something I want to come back to later, I will actually hover over one of the images in the post and pin it to Pinterest, and then go back to Pinterest later on and pull up those articles later. So I'm going to talk in a little bit about a resource that I have that'll help you with those images. But anyway, so relevant imagery is super important, and make sure to keep that in mind. Try not to use too many stock photos or clip art. Clip art is terrible. Don't use it. I think it makes your website and your blogs look really, really cheesy and corny. Don't use it. So get rid of any clip art, and don't use it moving forward. Find different ways to creatively show your message as it relates to the text through imagery. And then personal experience. So people want your posts to be something they can relate to. And usually we, as individuals, and when you're looking at things interpersonally, like experiences are what kind of pull us together as humans, and we want to read and see how people are being affected by something, how people are enjoying a certain service or a product, how people feel maybe pulled to your mission, both internally within your organization and as clients. So think about personal experiences or testimonials that people might have in the community and want to share with you. These are human interest pieces. These are the things that get the most attention. If you're a Facebook user and you've been on Facebook this weekend, you probably have seen so many articles being shared about veterans or those lost in fighting overseas and experiences that their families have been going through. And usually it comes with a compelling image, sadly, of a widow clinging to a casket or something. And I know that seems a little sad to talk about right now, but really those are the things that moved me this weekend, was seeing those personal experiences and clicking on the link and reading the article from the Huffington Post or what have you about this experience this family went through losing their loved one. I mean, those are the things that people are looking for. They want to feel connected, and they're going to do that through personal experience stories. So we can really draw on what we're pulled to when we're on social media. So think about that as you're creating and brainstorming your next post. So storytelling, that kind of takes place in the main body of your post. That's where you kind of pull in all of the different thoughts that you have. Some people will do this depending on the type of post in narrative style, or they'll do a bulleted list. They'll use numbers. The nice thing about bulleted lists or numbers is like labeling parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 or something, is that people's eyes can scan that very easily and kind of pick out the different main points they want to read or what kind of sounds interesting to them. And that part just kind of depends on what the message is and what it's about. And then at the end, always conclude with a question or a call to action. And I too need to be better about this. But end with a way to make your readers become interested in commenting or being a part of the discussion in the post. So maybe at the end you ask a question like, you know, how did you feel? How did this blog post make you feel? What thoughts do you have moving forward? Or have you had an experience similar? Share it with us in the comment section below. So just ending kind of with a call to action or something you want people to share back and engage. That's another key thing. All right, next slide. Okay, so just some things to keep in mind, and these are just very technical things. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but also something to keep in mind because I've personally done things on this list completely wrong, and I know other people have too. So keep posts short. So don't make a post that's, you know, makes people have to scroll through pages after pages or page after page to read it. Keep them pretty short. Use paragraphs. And people scan websites and blog posts to decide if they want to read it. So there's a good chance when somebody comes to your website, they're going to look at the title and they're just going to start scrolling. And their eyes need to catch on things. So it might be a photo, it could be a bulleted list, or what have you, but I can guarantee it if you have just one huge big paragraph or you don't break it up into multiple smaller paragraphs, people aren't going to stick around. They want small paragraphs, makes it easier to read, and the spacing just feels less overwhelming. So keep sentences concise and simple. Don't get too wordy or try to be too, I don't know, I think sometimes in the professional field in corporate world and maybe even in nonprofit world, you know, we're experts in our area, so we want that to come across, and that's great, but sometimes we can lose people in the jargon and the different acronyms and different things that we find to make sense to us. It doesn't necessarily make sense to our readers. So think of simple wording and concise sentences, make it clear, and don't get too caught up in that sort of stuff. And then internal links. So what I mean by internal links is use links, so hyperlink different parts of your post back to other parts of your website that you want people to look at. I think we talked about this also in the last webinar. One of the big advantages to blogging and social media is that when we share something, we have the opportunity to continue to engage the reader long after that initial impression. And we can do that by getting them to click on things within the blog post or within social media or what have you, to then direct them to another part of our website that may be asking them to donate. So maybe you share a beautiful article or beautiful testimonial about your organization with great graphics and everything. Make sure at the end, if your intent is to entice them to want to donate to your organization, make sure you include a link at the bottom that they can click on to get to your donation page. Or maybe you want them to register for something, or maybe sign up to be a part of an event or volunteer for something. Give them those tools to find those pages by hyperlinking in the blog post. Try to do this, make a point to do this, at least in one or two different locations in your post. And then external links. So this one I thought, do I want to put this on this list or not? But then I decided to, and I put limited because I think external links are important. And what I mean by external links is posting to other people's blogs or websites or what have you, or other partnering organizations or like-minded organizations. I think this is cool and it's good because other organizations can see that you're interacting with them, and they can see that you're making an effort to pull them into the conversation and make them part of what you're doing. Some advice on that, though, is make sure that you're linking to places that share a like-minded goal or interest, and that it makes sense to link to them. And it also sends traffic away from your blog or your website, so you want to make sure that that you're just really thinking it through and why and what's the purpose before you do it. But it is helpful in creating those kind of collaborations and other things that we're going to talk about in a little bit. So next slide. So I might have mentioned this first website that I like to use, canva.com, but I'm going to bring it up again. So we talked about imagery being a really big piece of blog posts, and I always hear the same thing, well, we don't have anybody that knows how to take photos. And I want to correct them and say, no, you do, because you have a phone, most likely, and it has camera capabilities, so you can take photos. And the great thing about Canva is that you can use this as an app on your phone or online, and it adds text over a photo, and those are probably what get pinned the most on Pinterest. So it all kind of weaves together and ties together, but Canva also has a search feature where you can search for photos that they have that are beautiful if you don't want to take your own. I would be careful with this because you want it to continue to be personalized, as in your social media and your blog. You want it to be personal. You don't want it to look too commercial. But I really like Canva, and I really want to encourage you to use it. It costs about $1 per photo that you want to use of theirs, and they also have free photos too. Be careful with the free photos that you use on Canva because they're free to everyone, so a lot of other people might be using them. I think it's pretty safe to say that if you budget, $10 or $15 a month towards something like this, a photo here and there throughout the month for a blog post isn't that expensive. And no, Canva is not providing me commission to say that. I just really do. I really do like them, and I use them myself. So explore Canva, and you'll thank me later. The other is deathtothestockphoto.com, and I recently stumbled upon this one, and I really like it. You can go to this website and subscribe to get a monthly set of monthly emails of photos. And when I say stock photo, it's not your average stock photo, and it's really actually a creative, artistic set of photos that you get, and they're themed differently every month. And so I just keep them in a folder on my desktop and look through them if I need a really quick photo, and it doesn't need to be a personalized photo like one of me personally. It could maybe be of a coffee mug next to a computer, or a plant, or a plate of really delicious vegetables or something. But they have a really great assortment, and if you visit their website, you can find more about them. But another great place to get photos. And then PicMonkey. PicMonkey is for editing photos. And they've got great tutorials on their website and different things to just customize your images to kind of fit what you need. So all three of these are great. I know there's probably a whole slew more. I probably could do a whole webinar on different resources online, but these are three to just kind of take a look at and see if they maybe would work for you. So next slide.
Okay, we would like to take questions now, and if you have a specific question for Victoria and or Samantha, if you want to note that. I know I came up with a couple of questions, so while I wait to see what comes in, I'm going to ask Samantha for the last two websites, Death of the Stock Photo and PicMonkey. Is there a subscription fee?
Good question. So for deathtothestockphoto.com, no. To get the emailed photos in your inbox monthly, one time a month, there's no fee. You just have to sign up or subscribe. I do think on their website they might have like more varieties you could purchase, but to get the emailed subscription of images monthly, it's free, unless things have changed, but I don't believe they have because I'm still getting them. And then PicMonkey, there is a free version, but also a more advanced, if you will, version where you can get more features for a limited amount. So again, just browsing through all of those three different websites and kind of seeing what use you need of it. Maybe just to start, you can use the free version, but then upgrade if you feel the need to later on, depending on how things are going.
Okay, great. Thank you. I do have some other questions coming in. I will give this one to you, Samantha. How do you address consent? Oh, let's go with Victoria. How do you address consent to use photos taken at events?
That is a great question. One of the things that we've started doing at GLCYD is including that on our registration forms, just a checkbox acknowledging that your photo may be used on our website, on our blog, and we have a separate permission form for youth. So if we have an event that we know we'll have youth coming to, like our Rise Up for Youth convening, they don't have just a checkbox that they check. They actually have a sheet of paper that we send home, and their parent or guardian over the age of 18 has to sign. And so that's how we have been doing it. Samantha, I know most of your photos are of yourself, so I think that's a little different because you're taking them. But I hope that answers the question.
Sounds good. It was helpful. Uh, Samantha, do you feel married to your blog? Can you take a vacation?
I love that question. Do I feel married to it? Okay. It's a happy marriage, so we'll put it that way. Yes and no. I think it's one of the only relationships I've ever had that I can check out for a long period of time and check back in and nobody can really yell at me. But no, in all honesty, I do. I mean, I have to post a lot to keep people interested, but when it's something you're passionate about, it doesn't feel like work, and it's something that I enjoy doing. So, so yeah, it's a marriage, but it's a happy marriage. And I would just go on to say that I know maybe for everyone listening, blogging sounds treacherous. It doesn't sound like something you even want to do, but there's so many different therapeutic ways to use it, especially as it's kind of like journaling for me in a way. And so for those of you who are just so passionate about the work you're doing in your organization, I know for those of you who are nonprofits and for-profits, the work you're doing is good, tough work. And sometimes the jobs you're holding in those fields are hard, and you have a lot to share and a lot to tell, and blogging and social media is just one creative way to find out how to do that, and to get things down on paper and share your story and connect with people. And the human experience is something that I value, and I think that being able to be online and share that with one another, it's special. And so I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, I digress, but yes, it's a lot of work, but it's fun and I enjoy it, and I encourage you all to dive into it, and just be forgiving of yourself when you go a whole week without posting something. And I know Victoria and I will tell you not to do that, but I've been guilty of it. And so the best thing you can do is just try to schedule your days and your thoughts around blogging.
And I'm going to cover a little bit about something that we call team blogging towards the end of the webinar, and that will make it so that if you as an organization decide to blog, no one person in the organization will feel married, because we kind of spread the love of blogging across everyone in the organization, so everyone gets a chance, and that includes volunteers, all kinds of people, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Okay, Victoria, can you speak to age differences of blog followers?
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. So when you have a blog, if you decide to have one, my number one tip is to install Google Analytics on it. And I can't believe Samantha and I aren't talking about this because we love Google Analytics so much. I don't know how it didn't get put in here. We probably should have a whole webinar on it, maybe later this summer. Because with Google Analytics, you can actually track the gender and age of the people following your blog. So I'm going to speak a little bit to Samantha's blog, and Samantha, you can go ahead and chime in, but I know that her demographic is females, and they're in, I believe it's the 25 to 45 year age category, but Samantha is blogging about fashion and cooking recipes and her life, and so that type of content is structured a lot more towards women in that age category. GLCYD's blog, on the other hand, the way we have Google Analytics installed, we can't break it down to the specific blog post, but I know as a website, our demographic is a lot older. We're looking at more of the 35 to 55 age range, and based on the percentage of blog views we have, extrapolating that across the data that we do have, I believe that most of our readers are older and in the nonprofit field. So by using tools like Google Analytics, you're able to get that raw data where you can actually look and see, man, our website viewership is really young. You know, I think the youngest they can track is 18, so maybe 18 to 25. Maybe a blog isn't for you. Maybe you should be on Snapchat. You know, looking at where your views are coming from, who they are. I could go on and on about this. I'll wrap it up with that, but it's definitely really dependent on what you're blogging about.
Thank you, Victoria. There was a follow-up to that question, and I think you addressed it where they said, is that only the 35 and under that find appeal in this to blogging? But I think you covered that, and you'll probably get into it a little bit more. Samantha, how regularly do you need to post to keep the content fresh? Is it better to make a short, kind of forced post during a slow week, or wait until you have a better topic?
That's a great question. So my answer isn't really a clear black and white answer to that, because so it was kind of a couple questions in one. But first of all, you should be posting. You should be posting. I would say 3 to 4 times at least a week. I know to some of you that might sound daunting, but and then to answer the second part of that question, so should you wait to do something that's a little more content rich, or should you just post something or anything? I guess it would depend what that something or anything is, because it has the ability to be distasteful if you kind of try to rush through it, and people are going to be able to get that feeling. So if one day you just post a photo and say, hey, hope your day is going good, and then the next day you've got this really heartfelt, thought-out, content-driven post, people are going to kind of see that the differences between the two and kind of catch on to the fact, oh, she really didn't, or he didn't really care today about what they were posting. But sometimes it works depending on what you're posting about. And yeah, I apologize, I don't have a really concrete answer on that. I would say more content-enriched posts are best. But if you're looking for stuff and you don't have it and you're trying to think of something, a series of photos, maybe instead of just one photo, but maybe it was our office potluck, and you take photos of the office gathered together, celebrating, and the different people there, and you could have somebody document that afternoon and then do a blog post showing 4 photos and saying what the office did and what staff were there. And what that does is it's short, quick, sweet. It's not really content rich, but there's imagery. It wasn't very hard to do, and it didn't take a lot of time sitting, typing something out, editing it, revising it, showing it to another staff member to revise. So images can really go a long way, and by taking a few images and posting a few images within a blog post, it shows just a little more interest, a little more thought, and it helps personalize it a little bit. So I think there's ways around it, and you just got to get creative. Or another idea I have would be outsourcing blog posts, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, actually, with collaborating and networking, so hang tight.
Okay, we will have another opportunity to take questions, but I think we're going to have the ladies roll. Victoria? Nope. Samantha, you're doing collaborating and networking.
Okay, so so I'm going to continue off of basically answering the question that was just posed and finish my thought here. But I wanted to make sure we got to this slide before I started. So collaborating and networking. So Victoria's going to talk in a minute about team sharing, blog posting. I'm going to talk here about how to network and collaborate with others in order to kind of create content for your blog. So my first suggestion is to do your research. So find other bloggers, other companies, other organizations in your field or related to your field who share a similar mission, an idea, and start keeping track of them maybe in just a simple spreadsheet or in a notebook. But find a way to kind of document people that you're running across online and that you may want to reach out to in the future. So email like-minded bloggers or writers, so connect with them and find a way to see if there's some collaborations that can be done. So this could mean emailing them over a series of questions, kind of like an interview, a mini interview, asking them, you know, maybe how they utilize different services that you provide or similar services or what have you. And what all you're really doing is providing the questions and they're providing you the content and you're linking back to their blog in the blog post, which drives traffic to them, which they like. So it's kind of a mutually beneficial relationship there. But it's also giving you content that you didn't have to sit down and really, really work through. And I really like doing these kinds of things because you create friendships with others in the field. They're probably going to then share the post, which is going to drive traffic from them over to you and vice versa. And it's a way to kind of take the load off of your shoulders for creating content. And so maybe slipping something like this in here and there. Or maybe it's a Q&A with a staff member on your team, or with the director and the vision for the future after a strategic planning session. So I don't know, kind of think outside the box, have fun with it, show your organization's personality or the personality of others who are interested in the work you do. And then I just mentioned this, exposure to new readers and audiences through collaborating. That will happen organically as you kind of make those relationships. And then comment, connect on social media. On Facebook, for instance, there's a way that you can visit other people's pages and like or comment as your own page that you run. You have to be an administrator of the Facebook page for your business, but you can comment or like as your Facebook page. So that's a great way to visit others and comment, share things, like different posts that they've made, and then they see you doing that and they'll come and return the favor. But getting people to share your content is really important, and I find that a lot of people on social media like to kind of share the love, if you will, and will do that from time to time if they see that you're doing it too. And then partner on a giveaway. A while back when I was working with Lake Superior Hospice in Marquette, Michigan, we did a giveaway around Valentine's Day with Watson & Watson Jewelers, which is in downtown Marquette. And what we did, so Lake Superior Hospice, their logo is a heart. And so Watson & Watson donated a beautiful sterling silver, I think it was, heart necklace, and we did a giveaway together. And the giveaway, we asked people to share the post and like our pages, and it generated a lot of interest and new followings for both organizations. Not necessarily similar in mission, but it shows the collaboration within a community and probably between people who would maybe benefit from either services from either organization. And so that's just another way to kind of work with another company or organization that you know. And then sharing testimonials, that's always a great thing as well. And that I'm kind of thinking more towards like collaborating with maybe volunteers in your organization, past clients. So another thing too, and I'll reflect back on my hospice experience, but when I was doing the communications for them, it was one of those things where I was always trying to engage with our nursing staff to understand which patients and families had the type of personality and interest and love for the care that we were providing and would want to share their hospice experience and be open to that. But that meant me communicating with the team and understanding who those key people were, because I wasn't going into the homes every day. So communicating and collaborating within your organization is equally as important to come up with those story ideas. So make sure that you're keeping that in mind as well. So other than that, collaborating and networking is a great, great tool to really get word out about who you are and what you do. All right, next slide, and I think Victoria is going to take it from here.
Yes, so we talked about being married to your blog. And here at GLCYD, we're pretty lucky that we don't have that problem because we set up a team blogging atmosphere. And team blogging is great because it takes the pressure off of one person to do the whole thing. So the first thing we did is we kind of came up with all of the subject matters that we wanted to cover. And then we shot it out to all of our staff, and we came up with this awesome title, Subject Matter Expert. And we had people say which subject matters they felt like they were experts in. And so we did this with our staff, our interns, some of our board members, and we developed a schedule. And you can do this, like I said, with anyone, staff, volunteers, board members, interns, consultants, anyone affiliated with your organization that feels educated enough to talk about a subject matter can be one of your subject matter experts. So we go through and we assign people different due dates and an assigned topic. So you can see our assigned topics are pretty general: marketing, volunteer management, fundraising, leadership development, positive youth development. That's what PYD stands for. And then we have the specific topic, which is what actually got covered. So for example, my first blog post was supposed to be about marketing, and so I specifically wrote about developing a brand guide for your organization. And then let's look at another one. Okay, on the 4th of November, Linda wrote one on positive youth development. That was her assigned topic, and hers focused on the youth summits that GLCYD hosted. So it kind of was follow-up to an event that we had. So we assign our experts different weeks, and we try to have 1 to 2 blogs written per week, depending on staff load. When we get close to the nonprofit conference, as you can see in October, I promise you that really doesn't happen. They come in a little later because people are so busy. So we might be kind of heavy in November, and that's why there were kind of a few planned in November. Because I knew that some of the October ones were probably going to come in a little later as people were really focusing on the conference. So we have the deadlines and everything, but we go in knowing that sometimes there's too much and you're not going to be able to cover it that week, so we'll move it to another week. Each of our writers then writes their blog, and they're responsible getting it edited by a staff member, and it can be any staff member. It's just our proofreading process so that 2 people see it, and then once it's been edited, we have a person kind of overseeing the blog. When we launched, it was one of our interns. She has graduated and now works at a super cool marketing agency in Atlanta, so she's not doing it anymore. So I've kind of taken over as that person in charge of overseeing the blog, and then I read through it and make sure that it's got the right voice and it's not saying anything that goes against our mission or our values. And then I give it final approval to be posted. And then the person who wrote the blog actually has their own account. They can go in and they can post the blog. And so it's really great because the blog gets done. I don't have to write it all. And it includes a lot of different viewpoints, which is really great because I unfortunately don't get to go to everything that GLCYD is out doing. So it allows for everyone to kind of share their input, talk about things that they're doing, and it's a really great way to, like I said, share the blogging love so that one person doesn't have to do it all. The last thing I want to touch on is some plugins that we absolutely love. At the beginning, I talked about how we were going to kind of stay away from specific platforms and stuff, this is the part where we're going to talk about WordPress. Samantha and I both use WordPress, and these plugins are WordPress specific, but I know if you're on a different platform, pretty good chance that you could get them on your platform, but I know that these work on WordPress. So one is the Pinterest Pin It button, so that someone would not have to leave your blog to pin. You just click the Pin It button and it brings up your Pinterest, which is awesome. Comments capture the feedback. We talked about feedback a little earlier, and there are a few kinds of ways to set this up. Samantha uses a system where they just need to put in their name and their email on their website if they want. I believe website is optional. At GLCYD, we use the account feature. So we ask people to set up an account and then log in to comment. And then we talked a little bit about giveaways. A cool plugin that you can use across platforms to run a contest is Rafflecopter. So Rafflecopter syncs up with your Instagram, your Twitter, your Facebook, your blog, and it gives users the opportunity to gain entries by completing tasks. And so I will show you guys examples of each. So this cute little guy is Samantha's puppy, Rio. And as you see in the top left corner of the puppy picture, there's a pin it button. And so if someone wanted to pin this little guy on Pinterest, they could hit pin it and it would automatically pull up their Pinterest, ask them to sign in if they weren't signed in. And then they'd get to pick which pinboard they wanted on. It goes there, it links back to Samantha's blog. So it makes it really easy for users to share your content. In the middle, we have a comment from a GLCYD blog. Shout out to Tracy over at the United Way. She's really active on our blog, and we wrote about rewarding employees, and Tracy commented that cool idea, I want to take some of them and run with it. So we know that the content that we generated about rewarding employees was something that people like. And then on the right is a Rafflecopter preview. Samantha just did a blog post on a collaborative blog that she works on where she did a book review of a book called 50 Shades of They, a little different from 50 Shades of Grey. And so Samantha's giving away one of these books. And so if you go and you read her blog review on this book, you can go in and leave a blog post comment, click I commented, and you'll get entered to win this book. And that is Rafflecopter. I can't remember if I said that. So if you want to do a giveaway, we both use Rafflecopter. Highly recommend it. It's awesome. It's really easy to use. And so that is kind of what that looks like. So we're getting close. It's 11:52. We have 8 more minutes. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the question box at this time. I know sometimes you kind of start thinking about things after the webinar when you're decompressing all the information that you learned. So here are also the ways that you can contact Samantha and I in the event that you have a question this afternoon. I will be sending out the slides and a handout with instructions on how to add a pin it button to your blog, in addition to information on Rafflecopter and how you can get that set up if you decide that you want to do that.
Okay, we do have a question that we received before the webinar began. How relevant and popular are blogs compared to podcasts? Should they be tied to one another? Victoria?
Sure. Samantha and I actually talked about this just the other day. And podcasts are great. I am so addicted to This American Life. It's fantastic. And I think that depending on your organization, podcasting can work awesome in conjunction with a blog. And so what I think of specifically is interviews. A podcast is a great opportunity to do like a half-an-hour interview where you're talking back and forth and really collecting stories. And then your blog is a great opportunity to just take a couple excerpts from that, say this is what we learned from this interview, and then link it to your podcast and say download the podcast to hear the full interview. You can also do it with, I think storytelling is the best way, but if you want to do trainings or talks about specific subjects, they're also fantastic. Podcasts, the only downfall to podcasts is that I think if you're trying to target people during the workday, they can be a little bit of a struggle because downloading a podcast and listening to it is kind of a bigger commitment, while getting an email that has a blog post in it and clicking it and reading it quickly um, can sometimes be a little more achievable. So depending on what your goal is and what your target audience is, blogging and podcasting go really, really well together. Samantha, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I would just agree with everything that you said, Victoria. I think you nailed it. In that you don't want your podcasts to be the sole thing you're posting. I think partnering it with a blog post and doing the excerpts from it, like Victoria said, would be beneficial. Versus, so you can use them together is basically what the point that her and I are trying to make, and I think she did that well.
Okay, we do have another question. Samantha, if you want to take this first, and Victoria too, because they are so different. How do you let other people know that your blog exists?
Okay, great question. And there's lots of different avenues you can take with this. So how do you know that your blog exists? So I'm trying to think back to when I first started mine. And it started when I was doing photography more full-time, weddings, family sessions, senior sessions, and that sort of thing. That's kind of where it all started. And so at first it was more word of mouth and people just sharing their photos and sharing information about my business. So word of mouth is a huge piece to this still. And when I say word of mouth, it could be people talking to others about it, but also I think of word of mouth as sharing something on my Facebook that I like and someone else seeing it. I guess that's another way to look at word of mouth these days. And so that's one way. Another way is so Facebook, posting links to your blog on your social media, Facebook and things like that, getting other people to share it. Again, going around and networking and collaborating with other bloggers or other companies, sharing links to different posts that are relevant to maybe something they're talking about. That's kind of a great way to do it. Also, in terms of communications and marketing, if you have a brochure or you have other handouts that you take along with you when you do things as an organization, if you go to a conference and you set up a booth, making sure you have somewhere where people can see it, the website and maybe visit our blog or a link to the blog. So making sure you're always letting people know that you even have one. I think it's kind of a messaging and communications piece, branding-wise as well. So making sure that's part of those materials and really letting people know that it's out there. That's a great way to do that.
Thanks, Samantha. Victoria, we have one more and we've got a couple minutes. So how do you stay up to date and organized with your blog when you have limited staff to help contribute to it, as well as limited time due to being stretched with many other tasks and responsibilities?
Story of my life. Honestly, an intern set up our blogging program. Shout out to Trish Larkin. She was our intern. She was phenomenal. I tasked her with that project as she was a PR student at Northern. So if you have a university in your area, it's a great place to go and tap potential interns. And I asked her about do you want to do this? It's unpaid. Hopefully you'll be able to get some credit for it. And she did. And she went in and did it all. And when she left, it got passed back to me, but by then it was structured and it was easy for me to follow up with people and they kind of knew the procedure. Another way to recruit someone to kind of be in charge of it is if you have a marketing committee in your nonprofit, or you have a volunteer that's really interested in marketing and communications, or you work through a volunteer center to find that skilled volunteer interested in that. It's an easy job for a volunteer to do because it can all be done virtually. And Trish actually helped us with our blog after she moved back home to Alabama for a little bit, because it was all virtual. Our spreadsheet it was in a Dropbox folder so that everyone had access to the schedule. She was able to go in and update it. We were able to go in and update it. And so we just use as many tools as we can, to have that that ease of access of information for everyone, regardless of if they're in the office or not. As for the limited staff to help contribute to it, I absolutely love my coworkers, but sometimes they don't get their blog posts done. And so it, I know how that can sometimes be a struggle motivating them to do it. That's why I try to schedule 2 a week, because I think that if one gets done in the week, then that's sufficient enough for us. And kind of going back to how we let people know, we have an email newsletter that we try to send out once a month. And so for us, if we have 3 done in a month, to put in that email newsletter, that is all that I ask. So having more and making our homepage look fresh and with new content is awesome, but understanding that sometimes the capacity is just not there to do that. So even though I like to say we do 1 to 2 a week, my solid firm goal, like even if I have to write 3 myself, is 3. And so each month there will be 3 topics covered, and they might all be marketing because I wrote them all. But most of the time I can at least get 3, between our board and guest posts and me writing, and it's easier than it seems. I know it seems really scary to start a blog, but once you get rolling, it's surprising how easy it is to get people to do it, because they'll find that they like it and they get to talk about and write about things that they are interested in. So once you explain and try to train them really well on that blog posts are short, because I think writing 1 or 2 paragraphs compared to writing a blog post sounds a lot easier. I just need you to write 1 or 2 paragraphs about what you did last week, or one or two paragraphs about a story of a client you served, or things like that. Makes it a lot less daunting and a lot more, staff's able to comprehend what you're looking for, instead of they may be thinking you want an essay when really you just need something short.
Good answer, Victoria. I know I have enjoyed writing a few blogs, but it is a little bit scary at first. We would like to thank everyone for um, joining today. And Victoria, last
Yes.
words?
Yeah, we have a few additional webinars coming up. On the 2nd of June, next Tuesday, Amy Quinn, our President and CEO, will be talking about the 2014 Marquette Alger Youth Asset Report data that we just released, and that is free to attend. And then the 3rd, and tentatively last, but you never know with me and Samantha, social media training will be Tuesday, June 30th, and that's going to be keeping a consistent branding. And it's going to talk about, we've talked about a lot of things in the last 2 webinars: blogging, social media. How do you use what you're doing on those platforms, and align it with what you're doing offline and on other online channels like your email newsletter and things like that. So if you have any interest in either of those, you can visit glcyd.org and click the nonprofits tab and then events, and they're both listed on there. They're both free to attend, and you just have to sign up. Samantha, do you have anything else?
Nope, I think that covers it, and we look forward to talking with everyone on.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.